Okay, on the eve of the Super Bowl, because Super Bowl takes place in a few hours, it kicks off. We're looking at the biggest scandals in NFL history. Now, this list could have been bigger than the board. I've kept it to five, and I will expand on why. The Minnesota Boat Party scandal takes place a year before Roger Goodell is hired as commissioner. There are things that took place on those houseboats that are illegal, and some things that are legal. But when it was leaked out, how it got leaked out, I don't know. But it got leaked out that there were sex workers. Yeah, yes, prostitution is illegal outside of Nevada in the US. That were flown in from all over. These are high class. These aren't just your average street worker. We're talking high class ladies and men of the night. Yes, were flown in to engage in some rather interesting activities that otherwise wouldn't have been illegal, but because some of the people were paid to perform those sex acts, they were. And four people were charged with misdemeanor offences because of this. Four players were ultimately arrested and charged with misdemeanors under state law. I forget what state they were in. I believe they were still in Minnesota, but there were criminal charges brought. A year later, Roger Goodell is hired as commissioner and he brings in a new code of conduct. And then the player conduct controversy comes out. Now, we can debate the severity of some of them and the fairness of the code of conduct in players getting suspended. But the worst one to come out at this time is Michael Vick and the dogfighting ring. Michael Vick at the time was the highest paid player in the NFL, and he was involved with a dog fighting ring that had links to organised crime in Atlanta, where it's from, and animal cruelty. He was profiting off animal cruelty. Now, dog fighting has been illegal for a very long time. Any kind of animal fighting has been illegal for a very, very long time. He was profiting off an illegal activity. So yeah, he was in a lot of trouble when that all came out, and the image of the NFL was further stained. There are a multitude of players between 2007 and present day that have fallen afoul of the code of conduct, and even coaches as well. And I think all of these scandals, including Deflategate, all of them link into the code of conduct, partly because of the boat party scandal. The boat party scandal sets off a chain reaction of events that lead to a commissioner leaving and a new commissioner coming in, and the PR department of the NFL ripping their hair out every time a player or players commits something or does something silly. Ben Roethlisberger was never charged with an offence, but he fell afoul of the code of conduct, which raised a lot of concerns about how the code of conduct is implemented. He was one of two players suspended without criminal charges being brought against them away from the football field. Now, we can debate whether Ben Roethlisberger is a moral man, but he was never charged with any offences. And I'm not going to go into what Ben Roethlisberger was accused of, because this channel is, for the most part, PG to 12A, and we don't want to offend the censors of YouTube and have the video taken down. The Patriots videotaping scandal links into the code of conduct because Bill Belichick was never suspended for his part in taping opposition training sessions and opposition coaches during matches with videotapes, using people in the stands to focus in on the defensive coordinator and what he was doing. While it didn't actually breach the NFL's rules, some were saying there should be a ruling saying you shouldn't have that kind of advantage on the opposition. It's not the first time that the Patriots are involved, because Deflategate, obviously in 2015, further sums up that the Patriots seem to get some quite interesting decisions that are more favourable to them than other teams. If another team was doing that, they would argue the punishments would be more severe. Now, the New Orleans Saints bounty scandal, I think, is possibly the most serious as a team scandal, with the CTE lawsuit and players being paid bonuses to injure opposition players or to target opposition players for exceptionally rough treatment that may or may result in injury. There is ongoing litigation with that against because the New Orleans Saints ownership, people who pay the players, signed off on it. And they won a Super Bowl in this period as well. It came out after they won a Super Bowl in 2011 that players were being paid to deliberately injure opposition players, and then the CTE lawsuit starts gaining momentum and public knowledge. Not good. Not a good image for the league. There were fines and suspensions. Again, the code of conduct is brought into question. Good and bad. So, in Goodell's time as commissioner, he hasn't stamped out scandal and misbehaviour from players and teams. It's still ongoing. The Patriots have done it twice. Now, the allegations around Deflategate, some were proven to be false, but it made the Patriots come out as they were getting favourable treatment from the NFL when it came to various things, Tom Brady was suspended for the following season for a few games, but it's left a very sour taste in the mouths of many NFL fans that these things keep happening. So is the code of conduct working? No, it isn't. I'm going to say no, it isn't. The player conduct controversy is an ongoing thing, and if I was to list every single player misdemeanor, I would not have room on this board. I would have to. This video would be an hour long, and I don't think anyone wants to watch me talk for an hour. Even I don't. No, seriously, you don't. You would need a lot of Pro Plus to sit through me. I would send people to sleep. What starts this code of conduct off is the Minnesota Boat Party and 7 Cincinnati Bengals that same year being arrested. The year before Goodell comes in as commissioner, 7 Bengals players were arrested for various misdemeanors. The code of conduct, it actually links into all of these incidents. Is the code of conduct working? No. Is the code of conduct being arbitrarily enforced? Yeah. Is Roger Goodell very unpopular? Absolutely. Because he was hired as commissioner in 2006, and since 2006, yes, there are 4 scandals on the board. There are multitudes. There are loads. Every season, players individually commit drugs offences or are arrested in possession of drugs. Now, the legalisation of cannabis in certain states, that does the code of conduct cover certain states? It's some states it's legal, some states it isn't. That means the code of conduct is unenforceable with cannabis across the league wide. Completely unenforceable. There are other ones with steroids, other registered narcotics that are illegal in the US. We're talking cocaine, we're talking crack, we're talking meth. Firearms offences, they still keep happening. Domestic violence, alcohol-related incidents, sex scandals, you name it, it's still happening. So this code of conduct, is it being properly enforced by the NFL? No, it isn't. If the code of conduct was working, these players would behave, and they don't. And some of the length of suspension is laughable, others it's too strict. It's leaving the NFL open to a lawsuit after lawsuit, and Roger Goodell is not a very popular commissioner. Now, I'm not saying every governor of a sport needs to be popular. They need to make some tough decisions that won't necessarily go down well with fans. Look at Gary Bettman in the NHL. For some reason, the NHL does not seem to have the same amount of scandal as the NFL. When it does have individual players that are bad apples, they normally don't last very long in the sport. Some of these players have had multiple offences against them, like charges. They are still playing in the NFL, and they're still getting paid large sums of money to play in the NFL, which is a reward for really shitty behaviour. But there we go. I've touched on a brief overview. I could go into more depth, but I don't think YouTube would allow me to do so, because some of the things that we'd have to talk about are not YouTube-friendly topics, and B, I would run out of space on the board, and the videos would be over an hour long. But the player conduct controversy is ongoing, and the amount of players who fall foul of the code of conduct and teams is shocking. And it links into the New Orleans Saints with the CTE lawsuit, paying players to injure opposition players. There is a bad culture in the NFL, and the NFL under Roger Goodell is not answering these tough questions, and they're not tackling the tough issues well enough, in my view. But that's my view on things. Others may have different views. The boat party scandal, I think, has started a chain of events that I don't think Roger Goodell could have even envisaged when he was hired as commissioner, this code of conduct brought in. But it's opened up a very bad can of worms, and the culture within the NFL is rotten. There is no other way to describe it. I've never come across a sport with so many player scandals and player misbehaviour in all my life. It is a sport that has got a discipline problem with its players and teams. And I don't know what the NFL does, but the last, I would say, 14, 15 years haven't been great for the NFL when it comes to player scandal. It seems to be a more common thing. Obviously, the rise of social media has made it even easier to find out if players are misbehaving. But this code of conduct doesn't seem to be working. But there we go. That's my view on things. I'm looking at some of the biggest scandals in NFL history. If I've missed any out, or are there things that I haven't touched on enough, please feel free to raise them in the comments below. But I think since 2005, the NFL has just been beset by scandal after scandal after scandal, be it individual players or whole teams doing stuff. So there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Place your comments below, and I'll have some more videos for you soon.